Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Kodanitai Maya Poshashi Kodanitai Maya Poshashi Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Dev, Gurudev. Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Iskam Gurvind ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Yantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Jitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Srila Prabhupada Leela almost finished now. Toward the end of July, Prabhupada's health seemed to be worsening again and again, and he mentioned that the end might come at any moment. Krishna had been acting as Srila Prabhupada's personal secretary for 6 continuous months, but he had become Prabhupada's eyes and ears and his spokesman, especially in dealing with ISKCON management. And he had also become a personal confidant, assisting Prabhupada in his transcendental moods. As a sincere servant, he now began suggesting a different remedy. Srila Prabhupada had recently been feeling and expressing intense devotion towards his disciples in their preaching. Taking this as a cue, Krishna suggested that if Prabhupada could travel to the West and be with his disciples there, he would find new life. But if I die, said Prabhupada, I want to die in Vrindavan. Krishna replied that Srila Prabhupada should not think of dying. If he would go on a tour of the West, see the devotees there, take prasadam made from food grown on the ISKCON farms, then certainly he would respond to such devotion and regain his appetite and strength. Krishna gave encouragement. When you get there with so many devotees who are giving their lives for spreading Krishna consciousness and assisting you, it will really be enthusing, and you won't have to speak so much. It's your presence. You're seeing the devotees, and they're seeing you. So in that sense, it won't be exhausting. It's a good climate now too, August in London. It's a very good time. Prabhupada turned to Upendra and said, his words are making me feel different. Just hearing I'm becoming enthusiastic. Srila Prabhupada ki. Oh, there's just this little bit. Srila Prabhupada said to Krishna, by going west, I know you will recover. May Krishna fulfill your words, said Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 3, entitled Hiranyakashipu's Plan to Become Immortal. And we're on text 12. Iti Shishruma Nibandam Iti Shishruma Nibandam Tapa Paramam Ashtita Tapa Paramam Ashtita Vihatsvanantaram Yuktam Vihatsvanantaram Yukta Swayam Tri Bhuvaneshwar Swayam Tri Bhuvaneshwara Iti Shushamane Banda Tapta Paramam Ashtita Vidatsvanantaram Yukta Swayam Tri Bhuvaneshwara Iti Shushamane Banda Tapa Paramam Ashtita Vidatsvanantaram Yukta Swayam Tri Bhuvaneshwara Iti Shushamana Banda Tapa Paramamastita Vidatasvantanam Yukta Swayam Tri Bhuvaneshwara Iti Shushamana Banda Swayam Tri Bhuvaneshwara. In this way, Shushama, we have heard, Nibanda, strong determination, Tapa, austerity, Paramam, very severe, Astita, is situated in, Vidatsva, please take steps, Anantaram, as soon as possible, Yuktam, befitting, Swayam, yourself, Sri Bhuvana Ishvara, O Master of the three worlds. Translation, O Lord, we have heard from you, from reliable sources, that in order to obtain your post, Hiranyakashipu is now engaged in severe austerity. You are the master of the three worlds. Please, without delay, take whatever steps you deem appropriate. Responsibly, please. O Lord, we have heard from reliable sources that in order to obtain your post, Hiranyakashipu is now engaged in severe austerity. You are the master of the three worlds. Please, without delay, take whatever steps you deem appropriate. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In the material world, a servant is provided for by the master, but he is always planning how to capture the master's post. There have been many instances of this in history, especially in India during the Mohammedan rule. Many servants, by plans and devices, took over the posts of their masters. It is learned from Chaitanya literature that one big Zamindar, Subudhi Roy, kept a Mohammedan boy as a servant. Of course, he treated the boy as his own child, and sometimes when the boy would steal something, the master would chastise him by striking him with a cane. There was a mark on the boy's back from this chastisement. Later, after that boy had by crooked means become Hussein Shah, Nawab of Bengal, one day his wife saw the mark on his back and inquired about it. The Nawab replied that in his childhood he had been a servant of Subudhi Roy, who had punished him because of some mischievous activities. On hearing this, Nawab's wife immediately became agitated and requested her husband to kill Subudhi Roy. Nawab Hussein Shah, of course, was very grateful to Subudhi Roy and therefore refused to kill him. But when his wife requested him to turn Subudhi Roy into a Mohammedan, the Nawab agreed. Taking some water from his water pot, he sprinkled it upon Subhuti Roy and declared that Subhuti Roy has now become a Mohammedan. The point is that this Nawab had been an ordinary menial servant of Subhuti Roy, but was somehow or other able to occupy the supreme post of the Nawab of Bengal. This is the material world. Everyone is trying to become master through various devices, although everyone is servant of his senses. Following this system, a living entity, although servant of his senses, tries to become master of the whole universe. Hiranyakashipu was a typical example of this, and Brahma was informed by the demigods of his intentions. Om Agyanatimiranda Shagananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Melitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobastam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhattarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchikalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Haridanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So Srila Prabhupada uses the example of Subhuti Roy and the Nawab to illustrate this principle of Hiranyakashipu trying to take over somebody's post. So Lord Brahma was well aware of Hiranyakashipu's intentions. And they say, yeah, without delay, take some steps as you deem appropriate. So what he could have done, Lord Brahma could have just destroyed Hiranyakashipu there and then, stopped him in his tracks. But he didn't do that. He followed the system and the etiquette, which is that if you do some austerity, then you'll be rewarded for the austerity. And if you misuse that reward, then on your own head be it. Of course, it wasn't just on Hiranyakashipu's head, because when Hiranyakashipu had all his boons, then he went around the universe creating all kinds of havoc. So it caused a lot of disturbance. And the demigods knew that this was going to happen. And so they were asking Lord Brahma, do something, But it's interesting the word appropriate, because appropriate, the tendency is to feel that what is appropriate is what's good for my sense gratification. That's what's appropriate. But what's appropriate is what does the Lord want. And because Taini Brahmarida Adikavya, he's the original Kavi, he's the original, and he's in touch with the Lord through the heart, then he knows what the Lord wants. So, okay, the Lord wants him to get benedictions. He'll chastise me later for doing it, but that's what he wants. So I'm going to facilitate the Leela. Sometimes the Mayavadis, they say, oh, we are in this material world for Leela. Srila Prabhupada is saying, oh, to be a hog and eat stool, that is your Leela. So our pastimes are a little different from Krishna's pastimes. And his pastimes are so magnificent and gracious. You know that first chapter? Your acts are magnificent and gracious. What's the verse? Mani Sahara Menikesh Atimachani Bhagavan Gudakapata Manasaha. So all these amazing adventures Krishna performs, and sometimes it's an inconvenience. Krishna's Leela doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good for my sense gratification. So the demigods are attached, they're Kanishta Adhikaris, which means that they're devotees, but they have material desires. So what they consider appropriate. But at the same time, they're willing to accept, okay, Lord Brahma, you're all-knowing, you deem what is appropriate. And that's the way a leader should be, actually. Srila Prabhupada said, democracy is demon crazy. The reason why it's demon crazy is the majority of people are Shudras. So if you allow people to vote, if it's just the Brahmins voting, people who are elevated in consciousness, that's one thing. But if it's everyone that's voting, then we get the wrong decision. So the demigods aren't going to vote and say, listen, Lord Brahma, we've had a vote on this. This guy, Hiranyakashipu, if he gets a lot of boons, he's going to cause a lot of problems. Going to cause a lot of problems to the Brahmins, to the Vedic sacrifices. let's just finish him off here and now. They could have said that, but the system doesn't run on democracy. It runs on allowing those who are highly elevated in their consciousness to lead the rest. You can't have the legs becoming the heads. If you have a body, the legs, they agree to serve the head. If the head says go this way, go that way, the legs say, okay. If that's what you think, we don't know, we can't see, we're not up there. You have a better vision. You say go this way, okay, we'll go this way. If the legs argue and say, no, I think I think my idea is better, then the body becomes chaotic. And that's what's happening now. The social body is chaotic because there's no proper leadership. We have Vaishyas leading the Sudras. There's hardly any Kshatriyas, hardly any brave people, and very, very, very few Brahmins who are detached from material things, not trying to cash in on the system, and are prepared to serve and lead with integrity. Generally, the Brahmin would live in an austere condition, poverty-stricken condition, and he would advise the Kshatriyas, the kings, what to do. And the Brahmins couldn't be bribed because they'd already taken a vow of poverty. So they lived in that way, and in that way they remained uninfluenced, and they could give unbiased advice. And then the Kshatriyas would protect, the Vaishyas would generate the wealth, and then that would be distributed. Just like clouds. Clouds draw up all the moisture, and then when the clouds become nice and full, they don't just hang around in the sky and never rain. So the Vaishyas are supposed to rain like clouds, and then everyone is kept happy and peaceful. And whatever your position is in the social body, whether you're a leg, an arm, a belly, or a head, everyone's happy because it's serving the common goal. And none of the parts can exist independently. The Shudras could say, we want to get rid of everybody else. We'll just have everything for ourselves. That's communism. And then capitalism is for the Vaishyas. And then monarchy is for the Kshatriyas. And anarchy is for the Brahmins, because they live outside of society and they're not restrained by the general rules and regulations. They don't have to pay tax. They don't have to serve anybody. They're provided food automatically, and they provide their service. I just listened to Srila Prabhupada yesterday. He was saying sometimes people they criticize the Hare Krishnas. They say, "You Hare Krishnas, why don't you get a job like me? I'm a very, very conscientious person. I am a doctor and I work hard and I've got a nice car. You Hare Krishnas, you should do the same, you know." So Srila Prabhupada said, no, actually it's mutual. It's a mutual relationship. We serve the doctors by giving them Krishna consciousness, and the doctors serve us by helping us when we're sick. So that way, it's a mutual cooperation and everyone benefits. So that's what should be happening in society. Cooperation. Find out what your social position is, act within it, and then you can have all the political systems going on simultaneously. You can have communism there for the Shudras, capitalism there for the Vaishyas, monarchy there for the kings, and anarchy there for the Brahmins. Any questions or comments? Hare Krishna, welcome.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, a question is, today we might see like the demoniac side of this society is very prevalent. It might not be as strong as Hiranyakashipu, but there's a lot of demoniac nature about, and there's a lot of exploitation.
Yeah.
How much should the devotee be concerned about this thing?
Well, it's interesting, Ashish was making the point yesterday that in the 16th chapter of the Gita, it doesn't say divine and demoniac people. It says divine and demoniac natures. So we could start off in the morning a bit demoniac, especially when we're just first waking up. And then we could have a shower and become a bit divine, go to Mangalarti, chant japa, peel a few carrots. We're feeling quite divine. And then it starts raining and we get water through a hole in our shoe. You know, we become a bit demoniac. So we have our fluctuation of natures going on, and we're shifting from one dark area toward the light, and in the interim state, then there's fluctuations of divine and demoniac natures. So They say every sinner has a future and every saint has a past. So we're a mixed bunch in Kali Yuga. You notice in the Ramayana, it was very simple. In Treta Yuga, it was very simple. We're the good guys and they're the bad guys. So it was quite simple. But in the Mahabharata, everything got mixed up. There were good guys on the bad side and there were bad guys on the good side, and everybody was fighting, but nobody really knew who was good. The Yadu dynasty were fighting against Krishna. They're all the good guys. They've been donated to Duryodhana, so they're fighting. Bhishma is a Mahajan, and he's fighting against the Pandavas. He even knows Krishna is God, and he's shooting arrows at him. Everything's become confused in Kali Yuga. Who's the divine and who's the demoniac? So instead of trying to work out whether somebody else is divine or demoniac, we should be working on ourselves. Hare Krishna. And working out, well, have I got a divine nature or is this demoniac? That's a nata nivritti, as we're getting free from unwanted things. So if we have a demoniac nature, then that's really going to be an obstruction in our progress. So we should be looking, we should be introspecting, not on anybody else, just ourselves, and thinking, the way I did that yesterday wasn't very good at all, actually. I was quite proud the way I said that. So I need to avoid doing that in the future, you see. And Bhaktisiddhanta said, nobody can harm you unless you harm yourself. Find fault with yourself. So if you're finding fault with yourself, you're not harming yourself. If you're finding fault with somebody else, then you're harming yourself. And there are certain influences which can bring out your demoniac nature, and certain influences which can bring out your, like if you live in a situation which is clean and tidy, then that will bring out your divine nature. And if you live in a place which is messy and smelly, and you listen to thrash metal, then it'll bring out your demoniac nature. Srila Prabhupada called it wire music. So this is wire music. So they've come from the hellish planets to take them down into the hellish worlds. Hare Krishna. Are you off? Yeah. Just a flying visit. Well, come back again. We need more people to chop the carrots. Oh, you only have to wait 5. No, is it 10 past? 10 past. You have to wait 5 minutes, then you can get darshan. Okay. Be ashamed to come this far and miss out. Be careful though, when you see the deities, you may become overwhelmed in ecstasy. We'll have to push you over to the side. So the newspapers are all about pointing out somebody else as a demon, and therefore because he's a demon, he should be destroyed. That's what that's how the newspapers sell, actually. In fact, in America, did you know that they brought out a newspaper called Good News? And they weren't allowed to put any bad stories in the paper. It was just all good things. Mrs. Simpkins had a cat rescued today from the tree, and Johnny helped an old lady across the road, and such and such won the lottery. Only good stories, only happy stories. And the newspaper went out of business in the first week. Nobody was interested. They all want to find out all the bad things that have happened to other people, and then they feel better. They feel like they're doing okay. So that's unfortunately human nature. And the demoniac nature is there, very prominent. In Kali Yuga, the demon is born with the devotee in the same body, in the same mind. In the previous Yuga, the demon was born in the same family. And then in the previous Yuga, the demon was born in the same country. And then before that, it was in different planets. So then eventually, they all started getting mixed up to the point now where we've got demon and divine in the same mind. And we're trying to get free from our dark side and come closer to the light. Tesham evanakam patam. Krishna says, to show them special mercy, I will show them toward the light. I will bring them to the light. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andakara. Krishna is sun and Maya is darkness. Wherever there is Krishna, there can be no darkness. Any other questions or comments? Any questions? Why is it so cold in Scotland? Why is the hill so steep? The hill's so steep because Lord Chaitanya arranged that he wanted, when the devotees are coming up to acquire Sukriti, so just like you have these temples in India where you go up so many steps, and then because you perform their austerity, then there's a special benediction. So when you come to the top of the hill, then you get Krishna prema for walking up the hill. And then you can roll down the hill in ecstasy. And it also keeps you healthy. Everyone in the Scottish temple is thin. Because we've all been walking up and down the hill. Yes, Maria. Yeah. Hmm. Well, they say good fences make good neighbors. So there should be strong demarcation, strong parameters, so that everybody can function. And the child in the Vedic culture, the child is treated quite strictly until the age of 16, and then it's his own karma wherever the child does. Up until then, if the child does something, it's the parents' karma. And then they say, okay, you're a free man now. You need to make your own decisions and decide what you want to do. And then the child can gravitate towards what he wants to do. But the nature of natures is that they can be cultivated. So you can take somebody who's demoniac and you can cultivate them and they can become divine. And you can take someone who's divine and you can cultivate them and they can become demoniac. And there's stories in the Bhagavatam of demoniac people changing and divine people changing and turning, going one way or going the other way, because there's always free will. So the purpose of the family is to create an environment in which the children can thrive, and to safeguard against having a demoniac child. There's a ceremony called Garbhoda Samskara, which is the preparation before conception, so that the soul that takes birth in the body is of a good caliber, and not because they were drunk the night before and the contraceptive didn't work, and then they've ended up with this kind of semi-human entity in their family, and all because they didn't take the proper steps in the first place. On the other hand, if the parents do the preparation, I mean, it's actually days and days, and they eat the right things, and then they chant. Prabhupada said he would like 50 rounds chanted, and then conception to take place. And then the child will be of a very high caliber. And by performing their austerity, then later on the child will be a real asset. Now, if the child does not follow the father, it's compared to urine. The child's compared to urine because it comes from the same place as the urine, but is of no use. So it's very important that the father is in good consciousness and that there's a loving relationship, a relationship of mutual respect between the husband and the wife, and then a good soul can take birth. Shishi Korinitai Maya Pashashi Ki Jai, Shri Tulsinath Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Girid Harilal Ki Jai, Shri Nrsimha Bhagavan Ki Jai. Go to pray. Yeah, we have a rope up to stop them from jumping off and dancing, because they have done that in the past. Sometimes they've jumped off the altar and started dancing, so we have a rope now to stop them. There's a deity in Vrindavan, Banka Bihari, and you're only allowed to see him very, very momentarily, because he did actually run off the altar one time. So they don't leave the curtains open too long in case he tries it again. Any other questions or comments? Was that okay? Yeah. Divine and demoniac natures, yeah.
How concerned should we be?
Hare Krishna, safe journey. You're not going to stay for prashad, no? No prashad. Come back for Govardhan Puja. Come back for Govardhan Puja, November the 12th.
Please bless us.
Sorry. How concerned should we be with determining what is our nature? And how do we go about determining?
Well, our nature is divine. Ultimately, it is divine because no one's born demoniac. No one's created demoniac. So our nature is. We can rest assured that we are quite nice. We're perfect and we're complete, actually. So a demoniac person is incomplete and imperfect. However accomplished he is in manipulating the material energy, he's incomplete and he's imperfect. So self-realization is just reasserting your divine nature and realizing that this is actually, it's like they have this system of non-violent communication. So this guy was mediating between two Zulu tribes, and they were trying to like placate everything. Suddenly, one of the Zulus jumps up and he says, "Why did you kill my son?" And so they had to try and help them to understand that neither of them are actually bad, and both would have behaved in the same way if the same thing had happened to them. And then they were able to get off the judgmental platform that, I would never do that, and start realizing, well, actually, I would probably do the same thing. So all these atrocious things we read about in the newspapers, and we say to ourselves, I would never do that. We should stop and think, wow, I probably would have done that as well in the same circumstances with the same conditioning. So we are no better than anybody else. Everybody is as potentially good as everybody else. But some people have been put into very unfortunate situations and circumstances. And so they've behaved in ways which later on they will be sorry for, sooner or later. They'll come to their senses and realize that was really, really bad. Because when you hurt somebody, you hurt yourself, because that person is no different than you. So when you're hurting somebody, you're just hurting yourself. And that's what karma is. Karma is helping you to experience the negative reactions for your actions, to help you to understand that this is not a nice thing, So if you kill somebody, then you come back, you have to be killed 5 times. So you learn that, getting killed isn't a good idea. So we're here, this is the school, the Reformation school, to teach people. And if you're demoniac, then it can be problematic, because you get cast down into dark situations again and again and again. But eventually everybody becomes materially fatigued and they turn, There's so many stories. What was that hunter? He was so bad, the hunter, that he wouldn't even say Rama. And so Narada Muni says, well, look, just say Mura, because that means death. But say it over and over again. And if you say it over and over again, you know what happens to Mura if you say it over and over again? Rama 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 Rama. You start saying Rama, and then you get purified, which he did, and became a great devotee. So that's the thing, isn't it? That's probably the most momentous of all the things that you can report that are going on in the universe. The most significant thing is the point at which the demon turns and becomes a devotee, and that's why there's so many stories of that in the Bhagavatam. Yeah. Careful you don't peel the microphone by mistake.
How does it actually happen by receiving sinful reactions? You learn that activity is bad because you don't have memory. You're born in some situation where you're being punished.
You do have memory. Like when people go frigid, so they have some subconscious recollection. So who knows? Maybe Satya Yuga, they'd come back after Kali Yuga, and they'd been through the hellish planets, had a tour, and so they were being really, really good after Kali Yuga, because after Kali Yuga is Satya Yuga. Everyone's really good, because they've been punished so severely in Kali Yuga that they're very averse to any form of sinful activity. Although they're not consciously aware, but subconsciously, they freeze as soon as the idea of sinful activity comes up, like, oh no, this is not a good idea. So the system does work. It can take a long time, but eventually You get there. It's interesting because Pariksha Maharaj says, well, prashchita is not going to purify them. You know, they do something wrong, then they do some severe austerity, or they get punished, and then they again revert back to doing something sinful again. And Shukadeva Goswami said, well, actually, you're right. In one sense, it doesn't really. We just keep going around in circles. You know, you go bad and you get punished. Then you go good and you get your pious merits. And then you go bad again. You go, wow, I've got all this money. I've got all this facility. And then you go bad again. And then you get punished. And then you go good again. And then you get all your sukriti. And then you go bad again. So you just keep going around in circles. Srila Prabhupada referred to it as a Ferris wheel. You just keep going up and down and up and down. And so then Shukadeva Goswami says, yeah, the real way is to purify so that the heart doesn't have those desires anymore. Otherwise, they're self-perpetuating, you know.
See, like in a place which has more culture, which is closer to the Vedic culture, they have a conception that I am suffering due to my own past misdeeds. Whereas in less cultured places, we simply externalize the blame. Oh, what others is so unfair, evenly. Which then seems to perpetuate the situation.
Yeah.
Where ideally it would be better to be placed in a situation where you're surrounded by people who will tell you the reactions you're facing right now because of your own previous misdeeds. So it seems like it's, yeah.
Short term it does, but expand your time window. What you're looking at right now is in the space of maybe 100 years, but say instead it was in the space of 1,000,000 years. What would be the progress then over 1,000,000 years? Because you have different yugas coming in. The Kali yugas, it's very problematic. And then at the end of Kali Yuga, it gets to the point where the only thing you can do is kill people. You can't reason with them anymore. Kalki comes down and just decapitates everybody. And then a fresh Yuga is ushered in. And then all those souls that go down into the hellish planets to get punished, they have to come somewhere. So they come back chastened from all that punishment. So that would be long term. That would be like, it's interesting, there's 1,000 Kali Yugas in one day of Brahma. So for Lord Brahma, you know, to see you go through the cycle a few times and then go back, it's like, okay, well, that happens, that must happen a few hundred times a day for Lord Brahma. You're seeing that happen. You go through the cycle, the universal cycle, you go right down, and then you come up, and then you go out. So you wouldn't see it, you know, if Lord Brahma was trying to see what was going on in 2 seconds, you wouldn't, there's not a lot happening in 2 seconds. But during the course of the day, he sees how things progress. So we have a very, very finite occupation of time and a very, very compromised ability to understand what's really going on within such a, it's just like that practically, you know. You take birth and die, the Roman Empire, gone. They come in and go, you know, like little ants. They build this ant hill, and then the next minute, and then another one, and then it's happening so quickly, you know. So we have to expand the consciousness and see the big picture. That's what's wonderful about Bhagavatam. It's the world that we live in is very, very, very restrained. And then suddenly the Bhagavatam is talking about massive expanses of time and amazing people with amazing powers. And we really get out the box, you know. We really start seeing the bigger picture, you know. And I was so disappointed before I became a devotee. I thought, I'm going to travel and expand my consciousness. And it was just the same thing, you know. They just had funny ways that they were saying things, but it was all the same basic thing going on. It was such a disappointment until I went to India. India was like a different planet, you know. That was really different. Such an amazing, such a feeling of stability in India because of the way the culture has survived, you know, for thousands of years. Whereas here we keep changing the goalposts every 10, 20 years, you know. The fashions change, the morals change, the opinions of the world view change. It doesn't happen like that in Vedic culture. It's always the same. It's not like, you know, you go to India next week and they've made a new cartel and it's triangular shaped. Oh, have you tried these ones? These are amazing. Are you still on the old rubbishy round ones? You should try. These are triangular. Oh, they're amazing. Look at that. You can only find it. It's just the cartel, the Mridanga, the chapati. That's it. It's, you know, you don't get an improved version of the chapati, do you? The chapati is, and the parathas are the same as well, you know. And it's, you know, who would have thought of getting flour? How would you even think to get flour out of the wheat, huh? And then you mix it with water and make a chapati? Where did you get that idea from? How could you stumble across that? Oh, I was walking the dog yesterday and I tripped over this wheat and I caught it on my knee and all this white stuff fell out and it got wet. And when I came back, I went and dropped it on a frying pan. And look at this, I think it's like a chapati. It's not going to happen, is it? Another question, yes, Ashish Ru.
No, thank you, bro. No questions, sorry.
Oh.
So, but very nice, like how Prabhupada like says in his classes, right? Indians very desperately trying to imitate the West, and not everyone sure. And that Prabhupada used to say, like, devotion is there in every Indian. It's in the skin, just needs to be rubbed properly, and
Under
then
the skin.
yeah. So
yeah. It's funny when I go to India with my wife, they all crowd round us, especially in my pod. They're looking at this big white guy with this little Indian, and I've got a dhoti on and a shaved head, and she's got a sari, and everyone else in India is wearing blue jeans. And they're like, that's weird. What's going on there, you know? So, Srila Prabhupada said that Bhaktisiddhanta has sent you to assist me. So we don't know where we were in our previous lives. When I'm in India, I feel very at home. So we shouldn't drishtai svabhava janati vapasasta dosha. We shouldn't look at the bodily color of the skin and where the person is born to judge the person, because we don't know who he was in his past life, and he may be part of some strategy that the Lord's decided he wants all the Brahmins to take birth in the lands of the Malechas, take up Krishna consciousness and spread Krishna consciousness in the particular location that they've been born, you know, to show everybody that you don't have to be born in India, a Brahmin family, to practice Krishna consciousness. You can come from anywhere, any situation, and you're as qualified as anybody. You're qualified by your enthusiasm. If you're enthusiastic to perform devotional service, that's your only qualification. And if you're not, that's your only disqualification. Are you enthusiastic? Then you're A-okay. Are you not enthusiastic? Then I'm sorry. It doesn't matter if you've got a Brahmin thread on, you are not the right item. Utsahan nischyat dariyat. And along with enthusiasm, also confidence. Even when you're chanting your japa, you have to chant your japa with confidence. Sometimes when you chant japa, you can lose confidence because you start feeling like, I'm not doing this properly. And then you can slacken off and then not make the same endeavor. Just like, you know, if you were running for a high jump, and just as you're about to run for the high jump, you've got the pole, doing the pole vault thing, you know, and you're running up, and just as you're running up, you're thinking, actually, I don't think I can do this. You've not got much chance of getting over. You've got to be very confident and very enthusiastic and ready to go for it, and then you'll get over. So yeah, when you pick up your bead bag tomorrow, just think of it as a big pole. And this chapter is going to spring me over the barriers of my disqualifications and project me into a pure devotional service.
Where does confidence come from? And you're talking like you can just confidence.
There's a button, there's a button. It's just behind your ear. You can get Ashish to press it, and when he presses it in, you go super confident.
But I feel like I can temporarily convince myself that I'm confident, but there's some deep down.
Yeah, confidence is based upon faith. your intention, your purpose with which you do something. And faith is something which can be cultivated through association and through knowledge. That's why it's very important. Before you can do Abhideya, there has to be Sambandha. You have to get all the parts together. You need a chopping board, you need a sharp knife, you need a clean vegetable, and then Abhideya can take place. So you need all the prerequisites. In fact, Jiva Goswami explains that when you do a yajna, you need certain items, and they're all there for the yajna to be performed. He said similarly, the sitting place, the movements of the body, the gestures, these are all part of the chanting process, and they're all prerequisites for chanting. So you need, when you're chanting, it's not that I'm just going to stick my hand in my bead bag now and chant. Prabhu, are you in the right spirit? Right spirit, I'm going to have the right spirit, but I've got to get these rounds finished fast. I'm on Sankirtan today. I need to do a big score. You got to get all the components assembled there. You know, enthusiasm, faith, determination, intelligence, purpose, intensity. To penetrate through the mental platform, you need sharp intensity. Otherwise, you're just down the mental platform. So yeah, confidence. So yeah, you have to, and so you may not be feeling confident. That's what ka nishta means. Ka means without, nishta means fixed or confident. So ka nishta is struggling to be confident. Sometimes he is, sometimes he's not. And then when he's nishta, then he's fixed. He's fixed up. He's always confident. That's not a small thing, actually. It's not a small thing. Being confident is not a small thing. You could go to the doctor and say, "Oh, doctor, I'm just not feeling confident." He goes, "Okay, I'll give you a bottle of these." It's not like that, you know. You just take a confident tablet and you're okay. Yeah. That reminds me, I was with this devotee. He used to do really big on book distribution. He used to say to me all the time, "You just need to go for it. You need to really go for it." And after about 10 years of being told this, and that I wasn't going for it, I was sitting there one day and I was thinking, what exactly are you going for? Are you going for the money? Are you going for the pretty girls? Are you going for the prestige? What are you going for? And I realized what you're going for is the holy name. Everything is coming from the holy name. So your confidence is rooted, foundational in the chanting of the holy name. If you can't be confident when you're chanting, then you've missed the boat. Even if you peel the most amazing carrots, you could have carrots 3 foot long, you could be peeling them with your eyes closed. But you still won't get there if your japa is useless. It's the japa which is the doorway out of the material world. You need to be able to do that properly. At the time of death, you can't be lying there, hand me a carrot, hand me a carrot. I'm coming to the end now, I need to peel this carrot. So you're going to have to chant the holy name, you know, nothing else, not passing out books, not building temples. The only thing you can do at the time of death is chant the holy name.
We do hear that the Yuga Dharma is Sankirtan Yagya. And Sankirtan particularly refers to congregational chanting.
Yeah.
You know, collectively singing loud,
yeah,
like this.
Yeah.
So how does that relate to japa?
It relates to japa in the sense that when you come together as a body, you all share the taste that you have for the holy name. Whoever has the best and deepest taste, not always the oldest devotee, but the senior devotee by spiritual advancement, he should lead the kirtan. That's the dadati principle. Srila Prabhupada talks about giving and receiving charity. So the leader gives his taste for the holy name to the ones who are in the kirtan. But he has to have that taste first, and he establishes that taste through his japa. So japa is your way of extracting the nectar, and sankirtan is the way you share the nectar. You express that nectar in your bhajan, and you involve others in it also. Don't know if you ever noticed, I was singing once in Manchester, and Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj was there, and he was really, I was leading, and I looked around, there was only me and him there actually. And he was really relishing it, he was like, and then I started singing really, really well. I've never sung like this before in my life. It was coming out like Neil Sedaka. I was thinking, I can't sing like this. And he was just drawing it out of me. And I was realizing, because he's got so much taste, automatically in his presence, the taste starts to come out, especially if he was leading, So Sankirtan is the one who's leading the Sankirtan should be the one with the deepest taste. And that's not necessarily the one that can sing the best. I remember Kavi Chandramas was leading this Harinam, and it wasn't, technically, it wasn't as good as it could have been, the way he was singing. But we were all getting really fired up, really enlivened. The more he was doing it, the more it was getting more enlivening, and then we kind of transcended the mundane estimation of what a good singer is and what a bad singer is, and everybody was getting really, really fired up. We started realizing, wow, this is totally transcendental. He's transcendental. His chanting is transcendental, and by us engaging in it, we're becoming transcendental.
What would be the destination of a devotee who at the time of death is not chanting, but thinking of temple, thinking of construction temple, something on those lines, book distribution or...
Well, that would be between him and Lord Chaitanya, because Srila Prabhupada said, if you can't remember Krishna, then he will remember you. But you have to have given your life for Krishna to want to do that, Krishna doesn't come cheaply. So yeah, if at the time of death your throat is choked up with cough and mucus, and you're not able to recite the holy names, they say that at the time of death, if you can hear the kirtan, then you're going home. Lord Chaitanya's come for you. So we want to lead our life in such a way that we've done so much to help spread Krishna consciousness that Lord Chaitanya feels so indebted that he will come now and take us personally. I remember the devotee that first introduced me to Krishna consciousness, he left not long after I joined, and I met him in Manchester and he'd started eating meat again. And I says, how are things going, Ricky? He never got initiated. And he said, it's okay. He said, this Krishna thing, he said, I'm just going to lead my life the way I want to, and at the time of death, I'll just chant Hare Krishna, and I'll go back. But it's a big gamble. He may do, but it's risky. Why take the risk? It's only one lifetime. You're not going to be doing much else with it anyway, right? Especially in Kali Yuga. It's not like you're giving up a lot in Kali Yuga, because it's even the ones who are getting the really good stuff at the top. They're not that happy, are they? No one's having a lot of fun. Even if you're a footballer, or a footballer's wife, or a prime minister, or you run a nuclear plant, no one's really happy. Kali Yuga, it's already, and if you compare all these really famous, talented people with devotees, devotees have got such an effulgence, such a charismatic aura around them. These are the people, if you bump into people sometimes who are famous, and you think, I think I prefer to hang out with a sannyasi or an initiating guru, or some really fired up devotee. Jai, Iskam Guru Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo.
Okay, Jai.
All of you Ki, Jai.